The best of Money Matters. The Big Story.
Welcome to The Big Story. I'm Hongbin Jeong. It's been a turbulent week in Japanese politics. Just days after a bruising defeat in the upper house elections, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is facing mounting pressure to step down. Earlier this morning, local news reported that Japanese Prime Minister Mr Ishiba plans to announce his resignation by the end of August. But Mr Ishiba has already denied such reports that said he is set to announce his resignation soon following Sunday's historic electoral setback. Now, here's where things get even more interesting. Earlier today, U.S. President Donald Trump took to Truth Social to announce what he called a massive new trade deal with Japan, a staggering $550 billion in Japanese investments into the U.S. and paying a 15% reciprocal tariff. But can Mr. Ishiba really hold on? Was this trade deal a lifeline? And what does all this mean for Japan's political stability, its relationship with Washington, and the future of Mr. Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party? Well, joining us today to share more is Dr. Craig Mark, who's Adjunct Lecturer of Faculty of Economics at Hosei University in Tokyo, Japan. Hi, Dr. Mark. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, Dr. Mark, looks like there's a lot of developing parts here. Mr. Ishida has recently just denied that he is stepping down, but with internal pressures mounting and Mr. Ishiba facing growing opposition from within the LDP, is his resignation inevitable?
It probably is. As you've said, Mr. Ishiba has denied the media reports that came out in a flurry today that he was intending to step down at the end of August next month. That is still probably likely to happen, but as of today, he was denying he was resigning anytime soon. He did that after a meeting he held with his predecessors, the former Prime Ministers Fumio Kishida, Yoshihiro Shigeru, and Taro Aso, who is one of his main factional opponents. And of course, all this speculation came out with the announcement today of the trade deal being secured with Donald Trump. So Mr. Kishida has got a temporary reprieve from being forced to step down because of that development today. But the internal critics still mounting pressure through the media to pressure Mr. Ishiba to step down due to the poor performance of the upper house election result on Sunday. So we shouldn't be too surprised if we eventually hear that Mr. Ishiba will step down in the next month.
Well, speaking of which, how badly did the July 20th upper house results weaken Mr. Ishiba's political mandate, and how do you read the internal dissent within the LDP?
Well, it continued to weaken him very badly. Of course, last month as well, in the Tokyo Metropolitan Assembly elections, the Liberal Democratic Party and Komeito Party, its coalition partner, did poorly as well. And so the lingering resentment within the Liberal Democratic Party, particularly amongst the conservative wing of the party, which didn't want Mr. Ishiba there in the first place after he won the leadership contest last September. Well, after he went to a snap election last October and the LDP and the Komeito coalition lost their majority in the lower house, ever since they've been struggling with minority government. And the fact that they've lost the upper house majority, it's the first time in 70 years that the LDP has been in this position ever since it was basically formed after the Second World War. And so the internal party criticism has just been mounting in the wake of the election loss on Sunday.
Well, while Mr. Ishiba has denied reports that he will be stepping down, do you think the LDP heavyweights might push for Ishiba's departure?
Yes, certainly Mr. Aso, Taro Aso, the former Prime Minister just before Shinzo Abe actually first became Prime Minister back in 2007. He's long been an opponent of Mr. Ishiba, and he and the other conservative faction leaders of the LDP will no doubt keep mounting on the pressure for Mr. Ishiba to quit. Now, Mr. Ishiba, who represents the more moderate wing of the LDP, well, they've been in a strong position since the October elections last year, when a lot of the conservative elements of the party lost a lot of their members due to their being involved in the funding scandal and the Unification Church scandal, which dogged the LDP for the previous few years. But the very fact that Mr Ishiba has failed to retain a majority now in both houses of Parliament does make it almost inevitable that he'll have to step down sooner or later. Local party branches calling for him to step down. Some during the election, some branches didn't even want him to campaign for them. He was seen as such a liability. So the writing is pretty much on the wall that he won't last for too much longer.
Well, what's the political mood in Tokyo right now following the upper house election results, Dr. Mark?
Well, it's pretty much a state of flux at the moment. People following the media reports today, just sort of questioning how genuine they are. And really, they're also wondering just how long Mr. Ishiba can hold on. Of course, everyone's also very excited about the trade deal being announced, which could give Mr. Ishiba a bit of extra time. But in general, people have come to pretty much expect that the LDP in Komeito would lose its majority. And of course, the San Seito party, the far-right anti-immigration party, has gained lots of publicity. But really, it's the Democratic Party for the People, the sort of more centre-right populist party, which has also made significant gains, which really puts it in a more powerful position when negotiating with the minority government on getting legislation through. Plus, there's other parties, the Japan Innovation Party, also a sort of nationalist, more neoliberal right-wing party based in the Kansai area west of Tokyo. And basically these opposition parties are jockeying for more influence over what could be the next diet, which will possibly have to confront a new Liberal Democratic Party leader who will either have to try and maintain minority government or possibly face a vote of no confidence and then a snap election, which could mean the Constitutional Democratic Party under its leader, Yoshihiko Noda, could get a turn as a minority government. But it's all in a bit of flux at the moment, so we've just got to wait and see how it all shakes out.
Right. Well, taking a broader look here, though, could this impact Japan's ability to govern effectively in the short term?
Yes, it could cause a bit of paralysis with so much uncertainty, certainly until a new diet session is brought on. If over the past year, Mr. Kishida's government has been able to get legislation through the Diet by making deals with one or other of the opposition parties, particularly in getting the budget bills through, which is, of course, keeping the government going. But they've had difficulties in other areas as well, on things like adjusting the cost of medical insurance and pension funds and tax thresholds. So it's going to be a bit of a challenge for any government to get legislation through during this period of flux. And that includes approving the trade deal just made with President Trump. Any trade deal has to be approved by both houses of the Diet, so we'll have to wait and see its fate once the legislation for the deal, which again hasn't been finally confirmed yet, manages to reach the Diet.
Right. Let's talk about that trade deal. I mean, Trump has announced a trade deal with Japan that he said will result in Japan investing 550 billion US dollars into the US and paying a 15% reciprocal tariff. If this goes through, is this a big win for Japan, Dr. Mark?
Relatively speaking, yes. Certainly people are more relieved that the threatened 25% tariff is going to go down to 15%. Again, not as good as what's enjoyed by Singapore or Australia or Britain, for that matter, only has 10% against them. And the stock market, the Nikkei index, shot up today over 1,000 points by over 3%. The big car manufacturers, Toyota, Nissan, Honda, they're happy that they now face lower tariffs. So there is a big deal of relief, certainly for the shorter term. But in the longer term, we'll have to see how it all develops as well, since
Right.
even though the 15% tariff is not as bad as 25%,
Mm.
it's still a 15% tariff increase from what it was before the Trump administration came in. So
Right.
it will end up having some impact on Japan's exports, particularly its car industry, its most biggest driver of the Japanese economy.
Mm.
Short term, there could be some benefits to the economy, but the long term might still face some uncertainty.
But how significant is Trump's announcement given the political situation in Japan right now? Is this giving Mr. Ishiba a lifeline?
It has temporarily. Ironically, Mr. Ishiba said he couldn't resign until the trade agreement was concluded.
Right.
Now it has been concluded about a week earlier. Mr. Ishiba is still saying, well, it needs to be sort of bedded down, all the details need to be confirmed, so he still has a role to play in leading the government. And I guess Mr. Ishiba is also hoping that having a relatively positive conclusion to the trade deal will give him a bit of credit. But even that, I don't think is going to be enough to overcome the lack of confidence that his own party has in him after the election defeat of Sunday. So it's a temporary stay, if at best.
Well, as you mentioned, despite him denying the reports, sources close to the prime minister said that he delayed stepping down to avoid political instability ahead of that August 1st deadline for the trade deal with the United States. But if Mr. Ishiba does end up announcing his resignation by the end of August, what kind of leadership transition can we expect? Which are the front runners that could replace him?
Well, assuming Mr. Ishiba does eventually decide to step down next month, there are a number of possible contenders. Key amongst them is Sanae Takeichi, the lady that he defeated in the runoff of the party leadership last September. She's from the conservative wing of the Liberal Democratic Party. She was very close to former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. And the Conservatives in the party will be saying they need her leadership to try and win back some of its previous supporters, the many conservative leading people who abandoned the party to vote for the San Sato party in particular. However, she probably doesn't enjoy a majority support of the LDP Diet members. So Shinjiro Koizumi, the agriculture minister, who's relatively young and relatively popular with the public, he managed to bring down the rice prices from the peak of their inflation just very recently by releasing some of the public stockpiles of rice. And so he still enjoys probably the most widespread public appeal. So some party members might be thinking that they need him as a younger, fresher face to take the LDP forward to try and recover from its election loss. But still, he doesn't have the strongest support either. So it's a very fluid, splintered situation within the LDP, and we can expect again a number of candidates to run, possibly former economic security Takayuki Kobayashi, who wants to restore fiscal discipline to the party, power broker, former foreign minister Toshimitsu Motegi, and possibly even the former digital services minister Taro Kono, who's seen as a bit of a maverick style populist, but might potentially bring some more integrity to the government. But it's far too early to tell. We'll have to wait and see who enters the leadership race once Mr. Ishiba does finally step down.
Right. But Dr. Mark, would a leadership change at this point in time pose any risks to the momentum of Japan's ongoing trade deals with the US?
Again, it depends on who ends up as the leader. Having secured a relatively positive agreement, it'd probably be in their best interests to continue with the deal that Mr. Ishiba has managed to secure rather than all of a sudden start again and possibly risk getting something worse. So, but ultimately, it does depend on whether continuing LDP government can get the trade agreement through the Diet? Can they get the support from the opposition parties, particularly the Constitutional Democratic Party, which remains the largest opposition party? But will the other smaller but still significant opposition parties like the Democratic Party for the People or the Japan Innovation Party or even Sanseto, will they be convinced to support the trade agreement? So it's probably still going to go through. They'll probably be able to cobble some kind of compromise, but again, we'll have to wait and see.
Right. Some great analysis from you here. But before we let you go here, Dr. Mark, what should observers be watching most closely in the coming weeks?
Well, obviously, will Mr Ishiba voluntarily step down, or if he still is determined to maintain a minority government, will there be a leadership spill? Next week, July 31, the full membership of the both houses of Parliament of the Diet of the Liberal Democratic Party are due to hold a post-election informal meeting. And if Mr Ishiba hasn't announced he's going to step down by then a leadership spill might be brought on. If a majority of the Diet members plus representatives from the party branches decide to bring on a leadership ballot, well, that's when Mr Ishiba could likely be forced from the leadership. And once that happens, then there's the challenge of who will be selected, and then will they get support in the lower house of the Diet? The opposition parties, if they can get their act together, they might decide to oppose a new Liberal Democratic Party leader as Prime Minister and maybe organise a coalition themselves for one of their leaders to become a new Prime Minister. So it's possible that we could get a non-Liberal Democratic Party Prime Minister emerging in the next Diet session after September. But again, we'll have to wait and see how the fate of Mr Ishiba proceeds. If he resigns or if he's forced out, if any of those things happen, will there be a snap election and will there be a new government? So it's all great state of uncertainty in Japanese politics at the moment.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Mark, for your time and your insights today.
No worries.
Thank you. That was Dr. Craig Mark, who's an Adjunct Lecturer of Faculty of Economics at Hosei University in Tokyo, Japan. This has been The Big Story with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.